During the first few weeks, she struggles to use Microsoft Teams and other online platforms. Every class is online and she has different subjects each day.
Hello and welcome to Represented, the podcast, storybooks and more for African kids. My name is, of course, Tonya Falogi Ekezie. I do a little dance when I say that. And I am your host on today's episode. Unfortunately, my main host, Ugo, is at school and won't be joining us today, but he sends love to all you listeners out there. Now, on this podcast, we shine a light on the amazing children's content out there by African authors and content makers. And let's go straight in. Our guest today is the inspirational Bola Dada. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an information professional and chartered librarian. Wow. So she's around books all day, every day. Like, she is so on the right show right now. She lives in London and has 2 adult children. Bola is a family-oriented, avid reader who enjoys traveling. Her favorite book quote is, be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. If one has courage, nothing can dim the light which shines from within. Wow. And that quote is from Maya Angelou. So stay tuned. We are going to meet Bola Dada right after this break. I'm Tonya Falogi Ekezie, and if you're enjoying this episode of Represented Podcast Storybooks and More for African Kids, brought to you by Simone's Oasis and Africa Business Radio, why not listen to our other podcast, Special Moms Africa? Real talk on special needs parenting. Don't forget to put on your notifications, like, and enjoy. Okay, welcome back, listeners. And as I promised, we are meeting Bola Dada. Hi, Bola. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, Tonya. Hi, Ugo. I know you're at school. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, well, we are just so blessed to have you. Now, I was going to start with another question, but really, how you've got to understand in the world we live in, there are very few children now who meet somebody like you, a librarian. So please, can you tell our children out there, what is a librarian? What do you do?
Thank you. So I think for most people, when you say a librarian, they think of someone sitting in a library, probably with old, dark rimmed glasses, with walking stick. No, things have changed. So librarianship is just one of the professions under the information world. So there are other businesses, there are other professions under it. But as a librarian, I work in a government department. So I'm in charge of book acquisitions in the government department where I work. I do one-to-one sessions with new staff. I introduce them to the library, to our database. Also, I work with the policy team. These are the people who work with ministers to make legislation in the UK. So as the librarian, I would get to know what work they do. I would find out what books they need to do their jobs professionally and, professionally, like I said. And I would also give them news bulletins every week. So I will look into papers, I will look into the media. So anything that is going to affect what their work is. So depending on the strand of work they do, I send them news bulletins in advance. So they are aware of social media around their subject interest. But there's so many things to it, I tell you. And there's lots of conferences you can attend. So it's not as boring as people think.
It doesn't sound boring to me. Actually, it sounds like a very powerful position to hold because
my friends make fun of me. They're like, oh, boring,
no,
boring.
Because for someone, our podcast is called Represented Storybooks and More for African Kids, right? So when you are in the position you're in, you have access. You're part of the gatekeeping or the gate opening in terms of what is stocked, what is available to children to read in their local library. We don't have so many local libraries here in Nigeria, but I know in the UK there's one in every, local government area. And it's a really impressionable position to hold because essentially you and those who make the policies determine what books children have access to, which impresses on the mind.
You're right.
Oh, so for me, it's quite exciting. It's quite interesting because you can also say to policymakers, hey, we need more diversity in books. We need to see this. You can actually take that research you're doing, send it to them, and they can apply it in the decision making in terms of, acquisitions, as you said.
Sonia. And I'm the Civil Service Diversity and Inclusion Lead for all government departments. So I represent Black and minority ethnic people.
Wonderful.
Forum, yeah.
That's amazing. So we have a real powerhouse in the studio today. Now, let's get back to your writing journey. This is your first book, correct?
Yes, this is my first book.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired you kind of to take this leap to write this book and become an author?
Thank you. I've always wanted to write. I've always entered short story competitions. I've always done, articles. When I went to University of Lagos, so I was always writing, given every opportunity. And actually this book, I didn't actually plan to write it. What happened was one weekend in April 2020, I found myself consoling 3 of my close friends who lost people to COVID. One lost her husband, another lost her brother, her sister, It just got me thinking that this is something that hasn't happened before. It's unprecedented. And for it to be happening so rapidly, I was just jotting down things, my own feelings at that time, how I was helping my friends to cope, how I was consoling them. And I just left it at that. But I managed to attend a networking session with one of my mentors. Her name is Bibi Clements. Shout out to her. Yeah. So she said to me, look, you've got a good thing there. You're not going to put that aside. And she actually encouraged me to actually put it into a book. And then again, she introduced me to my publisher as well. So Heritage Publishing. So I just felt it was something God wanted me to do because everything just fell into place. Not, from my own initial thinking of writing a book. But once I got connected to the publisher, we had a good working relationship and the book was written.
Wow. So it actually you had this desire already, but really there's so many things that happen within the COVID, good and bad. And it's amazing that you could take that experience and put into something like a full-fledged chapter book. I just think it's so awesome. Now,
thank you.
As you mentioned, you tackle the topic of COVID-19 in your book. Now, the title, listeners, is Dimples Dares to Ask. You've mentioned how, your need to console your friends, but why is this book so important? And especially as it's for children, I know that it's difficult sometimes to communicate to children things like COVID and to help them understand. So what do you think this book does in that area?
Thank you. Like you said, COVID in itself is a grim topic, so it's not something we would want to push in the face of children. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a historical documentation of the past couple of years for everybody. And I chose to use a child's point of view because I felt, one, it's a new experience for everybody. Nobody has experienced COVID before. And I felt it would be nice to actually record what is happening. Because even some young children now, they might not fully understand what is happening. But through this book, I've tried to make it a kind of historical account. I've tried to break it up into dates as things happen. So I felt, talking from a child's point of view, you get an innocent approach to the topic. And like I said, I've got 2 adult children. So the challenge was how to write from a child's point of view. But luckily, I have a 13-year-old niece. So I kind of used her experience as the writing focus point. Yeah. And there were times I would write some stuff and my publisher would actually say, Bola, do you think a 12-year-old would think like that? I'll have to go back and try and simplify it. But it's just using questions to address all the issues that we've all been experiencing for the past 2 years. And so it's from a child's point of view.
And so without further ado, we are going to read an excerpt from Dimples Dares to Ask. Dimples Dares to Ask. It's almost a tongue twister for me. By Bola Dada. We are actually going to read chapter 8 to you, listeners, so enjoy.
Chapter 8. Learning away from school. Why is the internet connection slow? June 2020. It has been 3 months since the Prime Minister's announcement in March. No one is allowed to travel around. Schools are shut and workers have been told to work from home where possible. The last 2 terms of primary school are challenging for Dimple. She is homeschooling and all her assignments are online. During the first few weeks, she struggles to use Microsoft Teams and other online platforms. Every class is online and she has different subjects each day. Sometimes the online photos she needs for assignments are grainy. She also has to print every Word document and put them in folders. Dimple eventually adapts to the different routine of attending classes online. However, the teachers set her work without interactions, and she does not feel she is learning as much as when she went to school.
Tonight, Dimple is in her bedroom, which is the third to the right along the corridor on the top floor. The little light coming into the room reflects on the mirror opposite Dimple's white wardrobe. Next to her bed, there is a single chair and a table. Her laptop is connected to a white monitor. At the back of her room, there is a 2-shelf bookcase. On the top shelf, there are novels and magazines. Her school books and files are at the bottom. The alarm clock on the windowsill goes off a second time, but Dimple is chatting with Zainab on Microsoft Teams. "I like the color of your wallpaper," Zainab says. "It's new, isn't it?" "Yes, it's my favorite color. Mum has been doing some DIY, and I asked her to change the pink wallpaper to lilac." "Lucky you! I still have the same ABC wallpaper from when I was a baby," Zainab says enviously, craning her neck to see the magazine cutouts of famous catwalk models in gorgeous dresses pasted around the room. She spots the big colored poster opposite Dimple's bed. "Gosh! Where did you get that nice poster of Justin Bieber?" "Oh, Adam bought it for me online. I was really surprised since he hardly buys me anything."
You're so lucky to have a big brother who is super cool, Zainab coos. I guess so, but it doesn't feel like that whenever he dodges housework. Dad and Nana always cover up for him and I don't know why. He has a lot of schoolwork, I guess, Zainab points out. Even I am struggling with all the work Miss gives us. I can't keep up. I feel as though I'm in a lecture room instead of school, Dimple moans. Miss doesn't explain the work, and she sets more assignments before we finish the previous ones. I know, Zainab says. I asked a question about the geography assignment, but she has no reply to my email. Now she has given us a history assignment as well. Dimple adds their other friends into the chat. Let's see what Natalie and Amara think. Amara's profile picture shows up. Hey you two, what's going on? A moment later, her bright smile lights up the screen. Hi Amara, what do you think of the new history assignment? Dimple asked. Amara's smile fades and she starts frowning. What history assignment? Miss gave us a geography assignment which I have not even started. Dimple and Zainab start laughing. Amara, have you checked your coursework online? Zainab finally says,
"The assignment was given 2 days ago and it is due at the end of this week." Amara reaches for her school folder. "Oh dear, I'll check now." "Should I phone Natalie? She hasn't joined the chat yet." Just as Zainab reaches for her phone, an exasperated-looking Natalie joins the group. "Sorry girls, I was looking for a quiet corner before logging in. Rachel and Rochelle are making a racket as usual. Yesterday I had to lock myself in the toilet downstairs to start my geography assignment. I could do with some peace and quiet in this house." "Your twin sisters are adorable," Dimple says. "Shall I send them to your house?" Natalie asks in a slightly sarcastic tone. Dimple smiles. "Not now, but they are always welcome at our place." "Ha ha! You're only saying that because we're in lockdown," Natalie replies. "Cute is the last thing you'd call them if they spent even half a day at your house." "Amara has not seen the history assignment," Zainab tells Natalie. "I'm looking for it now. I'm looking at it now." Amara pipes up in a distressed voice. "Oh dear, I have a lot of catching up to do." Natalie sighs. "Miss keeps throwing assignments at us during this lockdown." The friends nod miserably.
Amara is scanning through her notes. When is the history assignment due? Thursday, Zainab replies. Mom shouts up the stairs. Dimple, are you in your room? Are you chatting to your friends again? She opens the door. We're discussing our school assignments, Mom. Dimple replies. Sorry, girls, I have to go now. Catch you later. She signs off hurriedly. The ink in the printer is gone again, Mom says, looking harassed. Apart from Nana, the whole family looks like that a lot at different times these days. I'm not the only person using the printer, Mom, Dimple explains. Dad and Adam print more stuff than I do. Mom throws her another glance before stalking out of the room. Dimple sighs and returns to her laptop. For her history assignment, Dimple has been creating a quiz on a slide deck with 10 flags from the Commonwealth countries. Her bubble pairs must identify which flag belongs to which country, earning a bonus point if they can name the country's leader.
The home internet is not steady, and every task she tries to do runs at snail's pace. She knows Dad is working on a corporate NHS project and Adam is playing a game on his computer. The demand for the internet is reducing their online access. The Wi-Fi connection keeps starting and stopping, Dimple mutters to herself. On cue, the internet cuts off again. But this time, she has not saved the deck and she loses the work she has spent so much time on. This is the second time this week. It's so frustrating, she grumbles through gritted teeth. Adam! Will you stop playing your computer games? I need the internet for my assignments. There is no reply from her brother's room. Adam! Dimple stops over to Dad's study. Dad! Dad jumps slightly in his chair. Please tell Adam to play his games at night, after I finish my schoolwork. You know he is not allowed to play games in his room at night, Dad says. What has he done now? She flops on the floor. He's been at it for hours. Now the internet has disconnected and I have lost all my work. This history quiz counts towards my year-end assessment. The internet came back on briefly, but I have to start all over again.
That's not true, Adam hollers from his room. I only started a few minutes ago. That is a big fat lie, Adam Robinson, Dimple yells, rushing to her brother's room. Tell the truth and let the devil be ashamed. All right, both of you pack it in, Dad injects. Dimple, save your work on a memory stick when you start again. In the meantime, I will find out what's gone wrong. Dad removes the cables from the sockets and plugs them back in again. The internet connection is still not back on, so he calls the broadband provider. A man with a Scottish accent takes Dad through some security questions. Please confirm your name and the first line of your address, please. James Robinson, 25 The Coppens, Southwest 11. Thank you. How may I help you today, Mr. Robinson? We lost our internet connection about a half an hour ago while my daughter was working on her school assignment. Have you tried removing the cables and plugging them back in? I did that, but there has been no change. We'll check that the fault is not from our end, Mr. Robinson.
After what seems like an eternity, the connectivity is restored, and Dimple returns to her room to complete her assignment. Are you the only student in the country? Adam teases her from across the hallway. It's the end of the school year. You need to chill, little sis. That's easy for you to say, Dimple says huffily. Mom and Dad have promised me a treat if I get the best academic report for the year. Adam laughs. Princess perfect, he says before shutting his bedroom door. So that was really quite interesting because I think every parent and every child can identify with what was going on there. So it seems very familiar, which is always good when reading a book.
Thank you.
We are running out of time, so I wanted to just ask you, what are your plans next?
So right now I'm trying to get the book into schools. I've actually sent it up to one school and they're going to show it to the parents and the staff. So it's just to try and see if I can get them into schools at the minute. And everybody has been asking me, is there going to be a second Dimple? So yeah, by God's grace, there will be another Dimple adventure.
Wonderful.
But I don't know the topic yet.
Wonderful. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Bola, let me say your full name, Adebola Dada. Where can our listeners find you on social media?
So I'm on Instagram, Dimples Dares to ask with underscore. So it's Dimple_Dares_ to ask. And Facebook is just Dimples Dares to ask.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing with us. And listeners, I, of course, have been your host, Tonyefalogi Ekezie. And you can find us, that's represented, the podcast, storybooks and more, and all the content from Simone's Oasis at Simone's Oasis on social media. Till the next time, take care and bisous, kisses, ciao, bye. For sponsorship inquiries, you can DM us at Simone's Oasis on social media or send an email to hello@simones-oasis.com.